you going? Okay, we're at the top of the mine, and we've got the generator going to run the hoist. It's an electric hoist, this one. The other hoist, the petrol hoist, petrol driven, which is better. This one's electric. And I'm going to, well anyway, I'm Uwe Barfuss. This is Yowah, where we are, the Yowah Opal field, which is only, the Yowah node only comes out of about 2 square kilometres. It's no bigger than that. It's probably the smallest opal field in Australia, I would say. But it was worked from 1872, and in 1903 it was considered that the opal was gone, and everybody left here. It was also when the big drought went on, there was no water around for 100 kilometres. But then family proved in 1972-73 that the field wasn't worked out at all. The main field was over there, over where those big heaps are. It's all been worked by open cut. And we looked at it very carefully. I'll switch the compressor on so that guys can get a look. We actually divined the area here. There were no old mines here at all on the ground that we have, and have mines since 72, 73. We actually divined it with divining rods, which is a fencing wire. And the first shaft that was done here was over there, a little heat there. That sank on open, and that was the indication that, hey, there's something there. Pretty nice stuff, what we actually call angel stone. It was a white selenite nut that contained opal. Very unusual actually, it's not the normal Yowah nut at all. And yeah, and so we said, well fine, that's good enough, beautiful stones. So yeah, we continue. We've got Robert at the moment down there doing some jackhammering down in the tunnel, and he's going to start hoisting in a few minutes, so we'll show you how that works. But it's an automatic one, it doesn't need anyone up top. You just fill the bucket down the bottom, pull the cord, and away the bucket comes up and tips out. Okay, that's the first shaft that was sunk in Yowah. It's a 6 foot by 4 foot. It was done by hand with a hand auger hoist, and like with a big shovel and hand auger drilled the holes in blasting. That is down to 65 feet. That's the first. We did 3 shafts by hand. We couldn't get the drill to come up in this part of the world to drill the big holes, that we have now. But so it's very hard work, very time consuming actually, to get down to 65 feet, which has got it's about 6, 7, 8 story building. It's the equivalent of an 8-story building, from the top all the way down. And then we have the drill holes like this one here, which we drilled 100 drill holes on our area, on all our all our lease that we have, which goes along there and back this way. And we did about 100 of those holes here a few years ago. And that's what we use now as a shaft. You'll see that's where I'll be going down. But in the early days, it was pretty tough digging it by hand. It was hard work. Not a lot of people would do that. Look at that. Oh, we have another bucket coming up. All right, so I think we'll go down now, go down the mine, and we'll show you what it's like underground. Hi, anyway, we're down in our mine. My name's Uwe Barfuss, Director of Queensland Open Mines, and I'm going to show you, most of you probably already know me, I'm going to show you the mine that we worked since 1972, 73 roughly, till today, and it's not worked out, it's only a small percentage of what we're holding. Alright, and let's have a look. We go down that way to the original shaft. Thanks, here. Okay, that's all down here. And this is the original shaft, the first shaft that was sunk at Yowah in virgin ground. Our holdings are part of the field that we never worked in the 1800s or early 1900s, and we sank the first shaft here. We got down to about 30 feet, and we never struck any nuts. Supposed to have nut band, one or two nut bands before that. Never even one nut. So we started to think, say to ourselves, my father and I think the only nuts down there is ourselves. And my father said, oh, let's forget it, there's no opal here. The old timers were right, and everybody else. But I said, no, I think we go to bottom level, which is the gypsum band, and the bottom level comes the clay. And then if there's nothing there, we'll give it a miss, we'll call it a day. Because I gave myself and my father, we gave ourselves 6 months. If we don't find any open 6 months, doesn't matter. We considered it as a holiday. So it took us about 5 months to get down, but we sunk it a bit further down, and all of a sudden, bingo, we landed on a patch of opal here, which is in the shaft and back here. It wasn't a very big area, as you can see, but nevertheless, it was a beautiful patch of opal and of the Yowah nuts, and it also had the white nuts, which is considered by the old timers as angel stone, and it's a porcelainite, it's white, and inside of the porcelainite nut was precious opal, beautiful nuts. Well, that's what we found here, and that sort of made up our mind. We just said, oh, okay, this is great, beautiful. We got an indication, we got something to follow, so we decided to stay longer than the 6 months. So we're basically still here, many years afterwards. And then if we go down that way, you'll see. After that, we went down here. Follow me down here. And down here, this is where the Angel of Yola was found. It was a patch pretty low, with a patch amongst the patch of opal nuts. Beautiful patch it was a glory hole. It was right in the middle here. And the Angel, well, as everybody knows, it's considered the most important opal find in the world. And it is on the internet as well, pictures of it, in books, Opal books, gem books, but it was a fabulous find. Now we'll show you. Now Robert, you're going to hoist some dirt. This is how we mine here. The bucket goes up automatically and tips out on top, as you've seen before, and then comes back down again empty for the next one. That's basically how we mine. We mine with a jackhammer, different sizes of jackhammer, small ones for the roof, and big jackhammer from that eye side down. And of course the pick too. The pick is an important part of it. Okay, this is our latest tunnel that we're doing, and it's heading south actually, till we get close to a border, or actually before the border we will have the fault going across it. And that's where we want to get to, close to the fault. On this side of the fault is where we always had the patches, glory holes. So I'll give you an idea how far it is, but it's a long way, and it's a fair bit of work. So I'll walk down there anyway. You can follow me down if you want. Yeah, this is what it's all about. When you start off with a tunnel, if you're not on the level, this is the level. We know this from years and years of mining here. This is one of our levels, but the nuts actually come and go. You don't see a lot of nuts here. The only nuts you see is the clay nuts, but they're not important. There's usually nothing in them. And the idea is you drive for a while until you intersect something that gives you another lead, because you're looking for another lead either that way, that way, that way, or that way, or that way, to find opal. So Robert found a bit of a nut here with gypsum in it, which is a good indication. And the ground should be improving because we're getting closer to the fault. So we'll just head down that way. And that was done quite a few years ago. Would have been in 1973, 74. And yeah, 74. We had a little bit of colour here, a couple of nuts that were interesting, and thought, oh, maybe something around, but we couldn't see anything to that side. There was nothing on that side of it. The nuts are pretty sort of dry, there's not much in there. And we went past to down to the left there and into the ballroom. And one Christmas Eve, I was here by myself for some reason, and I used to brew our own beer, the big bottles. We used to do about 72 bottles at a time, and so we stored it down the mine. And Christmas Eve, I had a couple of the miners come around in the afternoon, and we had a good time and ended up drinking all my beer. So I thought, well, hang on, it's Christmas Eve coming up. I really want a cold beer. So I decided, oh, bugger it, I'll go down the mine. And from the shaft, go down the shaft, it's on the right-hand side, the beer. And this is on the extreme left, this area. So I went down the ladder, no hoist or anything, just down the ladder with a couple of buckets for the bottles. And I got down the ladder, was about to turn right to where we store the beer, and somebody said to me, no, stop, turn left. And I said, well, I don't know, what for? Turn left. I kept on saying, no, bullshit, I want to go right. Turn left. So anyway, in the end, I turned left and I walked down here. I said, where? And then it said, stop. Right? I said, all right, what am I here for? I couldn't understand that. It was just like somebody talking to you, but I knew there was nobody down here. Then I said, oh, I'm going back to get my beer. There's nothing here. So then something said to me, a voice said to me, dig here. And I said, nah, there's nothing there. Dig there, dig there. So, all right. In the end, I gave up. I said, right. I had a pick down here. I got the pick, swung the pick in. It was about here, this level here. And I swung her in and bang, something hard. I thought, oh, that's funny. All right, give it another swing. Bang. It went like glass, like you're hitting glass. And I said, oh shit, this is opal. I've hit opal. So got all excited, of course. But it was only that far into the wall, from the wall, and there was absolutely nothing visible on the wall. Absolutely nothing. No indication that would think you should dig there. Anyway, I dug away the sandstone, and there it was, a patch, a glory hole of opal nuts, fully opalized, top to bottom, all opalized. They were about that wide, the run of it, and went about that far eventually. But it was just no potch, just full colour of the rainbow. Beautiful type of nuts. There were big matrix patterns and kernels and everything. And I dug out 2 buckets I filled. It was already getting dark up top. Filled up 2 buckets with nuts. And I thought, all right, that's it. I sort of buried it, make sure if somebody went down I wouldn't see it. I thought I'll leave the rest till my father comes back from down south. And he can dig the rest out. So I went around, put my couple of bottles of beer on top of each bucket. Climbed up the ladder, tied it to the rope and pulled it up. And you know what? I mean, it's very heavy, 2 buckets of nuts like that, with beer on top, 4 bottles of beer. I didn't feel it, even though I was half exhausted from digging out the nuts, had blisters, because I was digging with a pick that I don't usually use for that, an old pick. And but I didn't feel all that at that time. Got the buckets up, pulled them up, and put my t-shirt on top of one of them so I couldn't see the colour, because you could see the colour, because they stick together when it's a glory hole, and hard to separate them, and when you're digging them out, you're trying to carefully dig out this nut, you're hitting the other nut behind it and so on. So it's quite a lot of colour to see when they're just mined like that. But anyway, that was the extent of the patch, and that was probably one of the most beautiful glory holes that we ever found. And that sort of was sitting on top of the gypsum. There's a gypsum band here, and the nuts were actually sitting on top of the gypsum band, right on top of it. And that's, I think, one of the reasons they were so well opalized. But in the gypsum band, you can still see it, but there's no nuts anymore. It's finished. And it's just stopped and started. Well, that was the most beautiful patch. Had nuts, really variety of nuts, of character. Was one nut was different to the other. There was no similarity between any of them. All right, we'll go down here. There's a drill hole down here. Have a look up here. There was some pretty good opal in here, and up there as well. There was some good opal. As you can see, that's been dug quite a few years ago. The pick marks have weathered away, the jackhammer marks, and it's like a smooth wall now. There's still opal there, I'm sure. Just getting into the old ballroom. This is pretty high, as you can see, but we had 3 levels of nuts. 1, 2, 3. They were all carrying opal, but not patches. But we did have in here, we had 2 patches, about 2, 3 patches actually. 3 glory holes in here of opal. One was down there. One was up in here. Another one was down here. Those were the glory holes, but it was carrying opal outside of the glory hole as well. It sort of spreads, and that's your lead to it. Your lead is to find a glory hole or patch. You find a lead. You find a little bit of opal, a little bit of colour, and you follow that. And if you've got no colour and you only have potch, you follow the potch. But if you've got colour, you follow the colour. And that colour, if you read the country, if you read what nature's trying to tell you, that will lead you to the glory holes, to the patches. And that's what it's really all about. There's no rule about finding opal. There's no, if I could say there are rules for finding opal, I would say there's probably 100 ways to find opal, 100 different ways. You just got to listen to nature. You got to look at it. You got to read nature. You got to be able to recognise what nature's trying to tell you, because nature hides its secrets well. That's for sure. And no, I've had professors down here of geology, highly qualified, and they would spend a day with me down here, and they were fascinated with it all. And then at the end of the day, I said to them, all right, we found opal while they were here. I said, now you know where I just found opal? Now you tell me where the next opal will be, the next glory hole or patch, or where there will be a significant amount of opal. And they looked at me for a while, and I said, you know what? We know why you've got opal here, because of all the silica pipes and this fascinating geology, but we can't tell you where you're going to find your next glory hole. We don't know. So I said, well, if you guys don't know, then there's no point in me learning geology or studying geology, because you're not going to tell me either. So I go by my gut feeling, my instinct, reading nature, and that, you know, and get the feel for it, and waiting for the little man to talk to me again and say, well, dig here. That's what I'm waiting for. So that's the second shaft we dug. You see the lattice there? You can see how high we are in the ballroom here. That was dug by hand as well. We dug 3 shafts, 6 foot by 4 foot by hand, with jackhammer, and the first one we dug with explosives, and the automatic hoist. And that's no drill holes then. In those days you couldn't get drill holes done up here. We'll go a little bit further. I suppose you're wondering why there's 2 wheelbarrows here. Well, they're worn out, sort of. That one doesn't have a wheel on it. But this is the one my father used for many years to wheelbarrow to the hoist. This is the one my son used when he was down here. He was 5 years old. He went down here, and for the first time, and he used to come down here with me from time to time and play and help push the dirt along to the hoist. So I guess he won't be using it, but he works with me. He works with me with the mining and the cutting and polishing and the selling, and he's an excellent salesman. He's really good. People like him. Good personality, and he loves it. He loves the opal, the cutting and the polishing and the mining. So he's away at the moment. But anyway, we'll go through here a bit further, and I'll show you the fault. You can see it very well up here. You can see the fault up there. You see the line that's going through there? The line going through there? And that line is the fault. And the fault was basically just a movement, a huge movement, millions of years ago in the ground here, which moved probably that way and that way, whichever way. And that sort of made a crack in the formation, which allowed the opal liquid to come up and down in it, travel in it, and went out from that and found the nuts that were there that had the cavities and filled the cavities. The nuts slowed down the opal going up and down, and as it went up and down, it filled the nuts. And sometimes it had seam opal as well, like a vein of opal, or pipes. And that was basically a crack that was in the sandstone, a cavity, which for some reason it settled there and solidified, became opal. Then we have the pipes, which usually go up and down or on an angle, very rarely horizontal, and there were vents. Yeah, there were vents that would travel for a long way, and those pipes filled with opal, and sometimes the most beautiful opal you can imagine is in those pipes. Oh. Oh, yeah. This is an area we've done a lot of work. My father in particular. He liked it up here. He found some pretty good opal. But this is something you should look at. This is just turn off that one. Yeah, you don't want too strong a light. But this is gypsum crystals growing. They have. This was dug. The last time this was worked was just over 20 years ago, and since then the gypsum crystals have grown, tiny crystals on top of each other, down and around and so on. And this is actually in the last 20 years, those crystals have grown. That's phenomenal. That's something I didn't think would happen. And I think if you put a slow motion camera on it, you would actually see the crystal growing over a period of a year or so. You would see it, but it's phenomenal. I've never seen it before anywhere underground, and I've been a lot of places underground, but I haven't seen gypsum crystals grow like that. I thought they stopped growing millions of years ago. They're actually growing. There were no crystals here whatsoever. There was just sandstone. So they actually have grown out of nothing. It's phenomenal. They're over there as well. Just be careful you don't disturb them. Up here. And here you see a nut band. That's the nuts. That's just one of the bands. You can see it going up and down. It's significant sometimes. If it's just a straight band, it'll be too level, and it doesn't carry anything. It seems to be in the ups or the downs where you get opal, but it's also very hard to follow. When it's going too much up and down, it's hard to follow. But there was colour here, and there's quite a stack of nuts here. But it's not always the most productive of this mine has not been the constant band, but being the nuts that have come and gone. And it's actually very hard to follow because you don't have nuts to follow. You're basically just following the sandstone horizon that carries opal. And that's where the best opal has come out of. Not those constant nut bands. The constant nut bands, I've never known them to produce much at all. But when it's going up and down like that, it's not bad. It's interesting. But we have a nut band down there again. That's only about 3 foot further down. So it's very hard to follow. But I mean, what we're after is not the nuts. We're after the opal. We want to find the opal. So sometimes we get it seam opal, pipe opal, and the nuts. And the nuts will come and go. Some horizons we have down there where you can almost bet if you're going to get nuts, when you follow that horizon, you're going to get opal to some extent. You might get opal only, let's say, the bottom little bit opalized, bottom third or quarter of the bottom of the nut. But that doesn't matter. It still can be beautiful opal, beautiful stones. It's not always the glory hole that you need, but you get opal in between, the lead up to finding a glory hole, the lead down again from it, and that's what you cut stones out of. And it makes beautiful, unique, one-off opals. Let's go somewhere else, down there at the back. That's the jackhammer we use. This is their baby, and we got 2 different other sizes, a bit bigger. This is mainly for the roof and for gouging, and my pick we use for gouging as well. And yeah, so I'll show you around the corner here. Watch your head. This area here was good. It was actually very good. We got clusters of nuts out of here. One cluster was about this big, about that diameter, and about that much from the bottom. It's beautiful opal, beautiful matrix. The bottoms of all those nuts that were in that cluster will make magnificent stones. We haven't cut them yet. We're still soaring it up in the right directions and everything, but so far it's beautiful opal. So sort of out of this little area here, from about here to back from that way a bit, about that wide, I'd say it's going to make a lot of stones, probably something like 1,000 stones out of this, but it wasn't a glory hole, because the nuts were only opalized up to about that high from the bottom. And they were about that high, a cluster of them. But it was close. The colour is superb. It's predominantly red, which is your rarest and most expensive colour. So we know we're going to make some magnificent stones out of this. And once they're sold, they're gone. And we have to find more, new ones. We don't know when that's going to be, but it will make, value-wise, you probably ask, what's it worth, what's it worth? Well, it probably will cut, I estimate, probably about $250,000 worth of stones when it's finished, when the stones are cut. It'll be a lot of work, but that's fine. We love doing that, and there'll be a lot of excitement in cutting them up. So it can be just a small area. With the excavator, you could have put all those nuts that we got out of here in one bite of the excavator, and they'd be gone. You wouldn't see them. This is, Yowah is particularly like that. So there are small patches, small glory holes, but they can be very, very valuable because of the nature of the nut, what type of nut it is, and because you get such massive opalization when you do. And there's no warning beforehand. As you can see, you can't see one nut there. Not a trace of one. Otherwise we would have dug it out. But that's the exciting part of it. It's a real challenge to work out which way do you go. Do you go that way? Do you go that way? Continue? That way we can't, we already dug that side. The other side we dug too, actually, you'll see the hole there. And that side we dug as well. So we have to look for new territory, for new leads. And yeah, well, that's where instinct comes in, gut feeling, whatever. You can call it what you like. But that's where the challenge is to find a new lead. And you follow the lead. We found the lead around there. So that's why we're working there at the moment. There's no more room to work here. It's finished. And this is where the horizon was. There was also some opal down here and some down a little bit down here, but not much. The primary thing was up there, and it's really great colour. So it'll make some great stones. It'll make a lot of great stones actually. So, but once they're gone, once they're cut and polished, they'll go like that. But it's a big mine. We've only worked on our mine, we've got about 20 acres. We've only worked probably 5% over the years. So we want to mechanise a bit more, make our production a bit more efficient and user-friendly, and therefore be able to supply more opals to the world. So we'll go around the other side. Okay. There. Well, here we had a lead and we followed it up, the same horizon actually, and we actually got some nice opal here. It's sort of in the middle, and then it went out a little bit like that, like a little river, and we got some nice opal out here. But also what's significant here, we had NHK, Japanese television, approach us for a documentary on the Yowah Opal, which we agreed to, and the whole film crew came across from Japan, and they said, well, we want to start filming underground, film everything underground, which they did, but what we have to do, we have to get you to find some opal while we are filming. I said, well, that's not easy. That's almost an impossible task to be able to predict that you're going to go down a mine and dig and find opal, something nice. So I said, well, it has to be that way. We don't want to do it any other way. We don't want to stage it. We want the real thing, otherwise we're not interested. So I said, all right, it might take a week to find some opal. I said, the director said, doesn't matter. We want to film the real thing, which we did. So, but we were lucky. We went down here for a whole day, and there were cameras ready all the time while we were digging. And towards about the end of the day, we did find some opal. So I picked the right spot, and they were happy. And then we had to take that opal, take it up to the cutting room, and actually saw it up, that opal, nothing else. We couldn't use anything else. That opal, had to cut it up and cut it into stones. That's the way I wanted to do it, which I respect. They only wanted to do the real thing. And of course it was nice. There was some nice opal in it. So yeah, they filmed a whole lot, and they filmed Yowah, and they filmed over the Ruby mine as well. But anyway, this was just interesting from that point of view, because it's so hard to predict. You can't go down a mine and say, I'm going to go down a mine this week and I'm going to find so much opal. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work. We've got a good mine, so it's a good producer. We're not relying on just finding a glory hole. We get opal in between, so which is good. Yeah. Keeps our ability up to have stock, to have nice stones. But we're lucky in that respect. You know, we're blessed. And it is a blessing. It's not something you can take for granted. You know, but anyway. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed that. I don't think we'll show you much more because the way you want to see it is to come down and mine with us, even if it's for a day or for a week. That's how you want to do it. You want to experience the real mining. You want to be mining with us and become a miner for a day or a week. And you'll never forget it. You'll have a lot of fun. And you'll enjoy it. You'll experience finding opal and the absolute thrill of digging a bit of opal up. Yeah, okay. All right. Bye. I'll leave you down here. I'll close the top. And I'll see you tomorrow.